Now I can die. Genesis chapter 46 verses 28 to chapter 47 verses 31, 1 Kings chapter 2 verses 1 to 4, and John chapter 19 verses 28 to 30. Introduction. King Solomon, the wisest man that ever lived, said in Ecclesiastes chapter 3 verses 1 and 2. To everything there is a season, a time for every purpose under heaven, a time to be born, and a time to die, a time to plant, and a time to pluck what is planted. What can be the reason for someone to say that he can die already? Last week, Judah continued to intercede for his brother Benjamin. He told the whole story to Joseph about how he dealt with his father Jacob, just to convince him to let Benjamin go with them back to Egypt. It came to a point that Judah offered himself in exchange for Benjamin, and he doesn't want to add pain to Jacob. Joseph could not restrain himself after he heard it, so finally he revealed himself to his brothers. He fell on Benjamin's neck and he kissed all his brothers and wept over them, and after that his brothers talked with him. Our Torah portion starts with the meeting of Joseph and his father Jacob. Joseph was excited as he prepared his chariot immediately and went up to Goshen to meet Jacob. Like what he did to his brothers, Joseph fell on the neck of Jacob and wept. This time, instead of asking Joseph of his health, status or anything, he told Joseph that he could already die. Why did Jacob say this? Number 1. He saw Joseph's face and he was still alive. Verse 30, I believe the moment Jacob saw his favorite son and was still alive, he felt that his children were in good hands because of Joseph, who was in charge of everything in Egypt. Another thing, now Jacob sees that his children are complete, what more can he ask for? Number 2. His life was hard. Verse 9, ever since Jacob was born, he suffered a lot of hardships. He was struggling with his brother Esau inside the womb of Rebekah. B. He was not the favorite son of Isaac. C. His father-in-law deceived him. D. His wife Rachel died while giving birth. E. His brother Esau wanted to kill him. F. He moved away from his family. G. He had wicked sons, Reuben, Simeon, Levi, and Judah. H. He was separated from Joseph from a long time. I. Her daughter was raped. J. His parents died. Truly, Jacob's experiences are no joke. We cannot blame him if he was ready to die. But Adonai's will is different from Jacob's. Despite of what he said, we will see Adonai Yod He Vav He's good plan for him. 1. He blessed Pharaoh. Verse 8, here we can see that Jacob as a servant of Adonai Yod He Vav He is greater than the king of Egypt. He blessed Pharaoh for 2 things. First, for his generosity. He commanded Joseph to give his family carts, and all the best goods in the land of Egypt. Genesis chapter 45 verses 18 to 21. Second, for his acceptance of Joseph's family. Imagine all the persons who went with Jacob to Egypt were 66 in all. Genesis chapter 46 verse 26. 2. He became a living testimony to Pharaoh. Verse 8, after Jacob blessed Pharaoh, he asked his age. Maybe it's the first time for Pharaoh to see a man who reached the age of 130 years, plus he saw that Jacob's appearance did not match his age. 3. He witnessed how his favorite son Joseph dealt with the famine. Verses 13 to 26, the famine got severe in the land of Egypt, and even in Canaan. But because Adonai Yod He Vav He favored Joseph with wisdom, he knows what to do. He accepted animals, people's land in exchange for grain. He also gave seed to the people so they can sow and reap for their food. All these things were witnessed by Jacob, and surely he was proud of Joseph. 4. He lived for another 17 years and Joseph vows to him. Verses 27 to 31, in spite that Jacob is ready to die, Adonai Yod He Vav He extends his life for 2 reasons. First, to remind Joseph that his body should be buried in Machpelah. He let Joseph swear by putting his hand under Jacob's thigh, which Abraham and Eliezer also did in Genesis chapter 24 verse 9. Since Joseph was living in Egypt for a long time, maybe Jacob thought Joseph's plan was to bury him there. Second, Jacob's life was extended because he needs to bless not only the sons of Joseph, but to give his last words to his sons as well, Genesis chapter 48 and 49. The lesson in our Torah portion is very simple. As long as Adonai Yod He Vav He has something that he wants from you, he will continue to use you according to his purpose. Ephesians chapter 1 verses 11 and 12. In him we were also chosen, having been predestined according to the plan of him who works out everything according to the counsel of his will, that we who first trusted in Yeshua should be to the praise of his glory. In Haftarah portion, King David gave his last words to his successor Solomon, as he was about to die. David did this because he knew that the key for Solomon's success depends on the faithful observance of the Torah. In verse 2, David used Joshua chapter 1 verse 8. He told Solomon to be strong because as the next king of Israel, he will encounter many trials. In verse 3, David encouraged his son to keep and walk in Adonai's Torah. The word walk in Hebrew is yalak, which means to go, walk, come. While the word keep in Hebrew is shamar, meaning guard, observe, preserve. So Solomon should go and observe the Torah, just like with the Great Commission that Yeshua gave to his Talmidim, Matthew chapter 28 verses 18 to 20. That's the reason why Solomon wrote Ecclesiastes chapter 12 verse 1, and it says, "Fear God and keep his Torah, for this is the whole duty of man." It's so nice to see a father who is about to pass away gives his son not a material treasure, but something worth more than gold. Psalm chapter 19 verses 9 to 11. The fear of the Lord is clean, enduring forever. The judgments of the Lord are true and righteous altogether. More to be desired are they than gold, yea, than much fine gold, sweeter also than honey and the honeycomb. Moreover, by them your servant is warned, and in keeping them there is great reward. In apostolic portion, what does Yeshua mean when he says it is finished? By saying this, he was informing the world that his sacrificial death as Paschal Lamb was enough, that no more need for any sacrifices. Hebrews chapter 9 verses 12 to 14. Not with the blood of goats and calves, but with his own blood he entered the most holy place once for all, having obtained eternal redemption. For if the blood of bulls and goats and the ashes of a heifer, sprinkling the unclean, sanctifies for the purifying of the flesh, how much more shall the blood of Yeshua, who through the eternal Spirit offered himself without spot to God, cleanse your conscience from dead works to serve the living God. Yeshua completes and finishes the work of salvation once and for all. The connection of our parasha is about being ready to die. In Torah, when Jacob saw his favorite son Joseph, he told him that he can die already because Joseph is alive. In Haftarah, David was dying and he gave his last words to his successor Solomon, to be strong and obey the Torah of Adonai. In apostolic, Yeshua gave up his spirit for he finished the work of salvation. Back to my introduction, there are people who feel their imminent death. But only Adonai Yod He Vav He knows how long our lives will last. Just like Jacob, though he's ready to die, he lived for another 17 years in the land of Egypt. As long as we live, let's do our best to serve Adonai and obey his Torah. Psalm chapter 119 verses 33 and 34. Just tell me what to do and I will do it, Lord. As long as I live, I'll wholeheartedly obey. Shabbat Shalom.